What's up guys, my name's Brandon, and today Apple released iOS 27 Beta 6 for registered developers and soon for public beta testers. Now along with this release, we also got the 6th beta for iPadOS 27, watchOS 27, macOS 27 Golden Gate, tvOS and HomePod version 27, along with visionOS 27 Beta 6, and then we did also see the final public release for iOS 26.6.1, which came out in RC last week. But as usual, in this video, we are talking primarily about iOS 27 Beta 6 and what's new in the software. Starting off with the size of this update, you can see right away, this is one of the smallest, if not the smallest update that we've seen yet for iOS 27 going from beta to beta. So it came in at just 2.2 gigabytes here, coming from beta 5 on my 17 Pro Max. So a very small update, which is kind of expected at this point. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's go ahead and check out the build number here for this new build. If we head into our settings, general about, and you'll see the new feature from last time. It shows installed today, but if we tap right here, we have the new build, which is 24A5418B. And if we head back and go down to the modem firmware, that's 2.10.01 for the iPhone 17 series. Okay, so going back to what I briefly mentioned earlier, so now that we're on the 6th beta, that's usually when Apple goes week to week. So usually a weekly release for betas. Typically we see that at the end of a big release cycle, like for iOS 27. So usually when you have weekly releases, you're not going to expect many more big features or big changes. It's mostly small changes and small fixes all the way up until the RC build, which is essentially the final release for developers and for public beta testers. So just know going in that typically after beta 6, the big updates die down and we start to see those small but notable improvements that really improve the performance and battery life. And that's kind of the focus, is just fixing everything up. So with that being said, you can see if I go into settings here, my optimized search in Siri did pop up, but it popped up much later than usual here on beta 6. So that was quite unusual. It did not show up for like the first 45 minutes or so, but then all of a sudden it did show up and it showed optimizing search in Siri, which is the first time I've seen that in a few betas. So you might see that here with this 6th beta, even if your device is plugged in and on Wi-Fi, which mine was. Now, as far as what's new here in iOS 27 beta 6, this fixes one of the most annoying bugs I've had yet on iOS 27, which was actually just introduced last beta on beta 5, but it drove me crazy the entire time that beta was around. And that was the blurred bar at the top of messages and Safari. This would actually prevent you from accessing some of your pinned messages up here and seeing like the preview text from them. It was this really weird blurred bar, but now that is gone, you can see your messages show up as usual. And if you're unsure of what I was talking about, I mentioned this in my What's New video in beta 5 and in Apple Weekly last week, but you can see this is what that bar looked like. It would basically cover up half of the top of your pinned conversations here and messages, and it would also impact your Safari. Like if you go into Safari, the top right here would be inaccessible because of that blurred bar that just stayed there. You couldn't even tap on what was behind it or see what was behind it. So that drove me crazy. That drove pretty much everybody crazy, but you can see now that has been fixed here with this new beta. There's also a new animation when notifications come in. So if you take a look up top here, when I get a notification, it comes in quicker than it did on previous beta. So it always had kind of a hitch, kind of a lag. It wasn't really lag, but it was just a really slow incoming animation for notifications, but that has been sped up here with beta 6. And here's a look at that animation side by side with beta 5 on the left, beta 6 on the right. You can see it's a noticeable difference there with the speed of the animation coming in. Now also, if you take a look up top at the battery icon, that also appears to be tweaked here in beta 6. So it does look a little bit more round than it was on beta 5. It's a very subtle change, but you can see it if you look closely. You'll see an even more noticeable change if you go into accessibility though, and go into display and text size and turn on bold text and take a look at the number inside of the battery. So the battery percentage now shows up as bold with everything else, whereas before on beta 5, that was not as bold as it is now. And if you had an issue with the dark mode toggle hitching and kind of lagging before, that's also been fixed here in beta 6. So again, a very subtle change, a very small change, but that's also been adjusted in the control center. There's also a subtle change to the animation when you pull up Spotlight search. So I have beta 5 on the left, beta 6 on the right, and I have to do this slowly so you can see the difference here. But take a look when I slowly drag down, you can see that the background gets a little bit darker and the icons kind of move back. They kind of shrink a little bit until that spotlight comes up. So you can be really, precise with it, which is really cool. I love this little animation here, but you can see the difference in that here in beta 6. Now, if you guys remember a couple weeks back, we talked about how the iCloud private relay feature here on your iPhone was exposing real IP addresses through a WebKit proxy bypass. So that was a big issue. And at the time, Apple said that they were going to address this and they were looking into this. Well, it seems like this was actually fixed in beta 6. So if you use the website to see if your IP address would get leaked, it appears to not be leaking your real IP address here in beta 6. So this is undocumented, but it appears to be patched here in this latest beta, which I would assume this might also come with iOS 26.6.1 as well, if not maybe the next release from Apple. Now, unfortunately, we still have the bug inside of the control center. When you haptic press right here, when you long press on the Wi-Fi right here inside the control center, you will notice that some of these networks still show the inverted signal. So some of them show up properly, like this bond config shows properly, but take a look at all the other ones. They show an inverted Wi-Fi strength signal. So the very first bar is blank, but the upper two are full. So it's just a little bit backwards. That was there in beta 5 as well, and it appears to still not be fixed here as of beta 6. I did also want to briefly mention the big new change in macOS 27 beta 6, because unlike iOS, there's actually a noticeable visual change in the 6th beta, and that is the new traffic light buttons for Windows. These now look much better than they did before. I actually really like the look of this design, and I hope it sticks around till the final version. And then also on macOS, we have the Golden Gate Day and Golden Gate Evening dynamic wallpaper. So this is in addition to the sunset and night versions that we had previously, and we do also have the new preview icon as well on the Mac, which we had on the last beta with iOS 27. This update does also fix the shortcuts application in multiple ways. So a lot of these shortcuts have been fixed. The issues have been fixed with it, including the send message action. So if you had any shortcut with the send message, that would fail to import or fail to share. That has been fixed here in this new beta. And if we take a look at the release notes here, there are also a few other changes. Now, there were a lot more changes going from beta 4 to 5 than 5 to 6, but there are still more known issues that have been addressed and are now turned into resolved issues with this beta. So a lot of fixes. It doesn't look like there's any new issues in this beta. It's only resolved issues, which is always a good sign. And I know some of you guys last week thought that the alarm section could be a bug because of this new bold font. So it seems like some of you guys were not a big fan of this. So of course it always could change. This is beta software, so nothing is ever final in the beta stages, but a lot of people were not happy with the fact that the font is not only bold, but the AM is also the same size as the numbers right here. So the same size as the time. It's kind of hard to distinguish between the two now. So hopefully Apple does continue to tweak that and they make the AM a little bit smaller of a font than the actual number, but the bold is still there in beta 6. I've also had some people ask me if anything has changed in Siri. So if we go into our Siri and then go into voice, you can see that nothing has changed in here. We still have the 7 voices where we can adjust the pace and the expressivity. And you can see I did go through all the languages as well, and those are all the same as they were in beta 5. So no adjustments there. Now, as far as the performance goes, I did run a Geekbench 7 test. So yes, I am going to start using Geekbench 7 now since that is newly released. So we did score a 3256 single core, 8951 on the multi-core. I don't have anything to compare this to. I only used Geekbench 6 before, but those are the new numbers here for beta 6, and I will continue to compare and kind of use this Geekbench to test against that. But those are the scores here, and overall performance feels fine. It feels great. I mean, I really have no issues honestly with beta 5, so it is expected to be a bit better than that, especially at this point since Apple is refining the software and really just gearing up to release the RC build. So you're going to see a lot of more bug fixes, a lot more visual, just bugs and issues get fixed up. So I would expect performance to be a little bit better. It's not going to get worse at this point, in my opinion. I know some people had issues with beta 5 going from beta 4 to beta 5, but you should start seeing gradual improvements throughout the OS at this point until the RC. Now, as far as battery life goes, I'm currently at 75% right here, and battery life has been fine again on beta 5. I would expect maybe a small improvement here in beta 6. I really don't think it's going to get that much different at this point from beta 6 until the RC or the final release. Of course, the final release should have the best battery life, but we'll have to wait and see. But I wouldn't really expect a big change going from beta 6 all the way up until the RC. So just keep that in mind. But you guys let me know down in the comment below how your battery life has been doing here on beta 5, and of course, freshly after you install beta 6. Now, as far as what to expect next from Apple, so like I've talked about for the past last couple of weeks, we are on a weekly release schedule at this point, which means that we are going to be seeing iOS 27 betas every single week up until the RC. So we should be on the RC for more than a week most likely, but we'll have to wait and see on that. So I would expect to see beta 7, so iOS 27 beta 7, most likely next Monday on the 24th of August. So that's when I would expect the 7th beta, and we could be seeing the 8th beta right there on the final day of August, August 31st. Now, of course, Apple could always release the software whenever they want. It's not necessarily on a specific schedule. It's just Apple does typically stick to Mondays for releasing software. And if you're still wondering if you should update to iOS 27 at this point, I would say that if you're currently on a previous beta before beta 6, I would say yes, absolutely. I know some people wait a couple of betas because they hear about issues and things like that. So if you're on beta 4, beta 3, even beta 5, I would recommend going ahead and updating to beta 6 to make sure your device is, up to date and getting all those bugs squashed and having better performance and battery life, and of course some of the new changes as well. Even though there's not a lot of changes in this update as expected, it is still nice to get those changes and especially those bug fixes. But with that being said, that is iOS 27 beta 6. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Again, very small update as expected. I would expect that to continue throughout the next couple of betas until the RC. Typically with the RC, we will see some changes that we did not have previously. So stay tuned for that. But if you guys enjoyed this video, let me know with a comment down below. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. Make sure you are subscribed as well. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.